Kris Soutar, welcome back to the Courtside Podcast Mini. It's good to have you back again, mate. We've looked over the last two episodes, kind of like funding and glass ceilings. We've been looking last month at cheating or helping ourselves to manage what we can manage on a match. But I want to do a slightly different detour. One of the interesting things I find when I chat with Elijah is, whilst he loves playing, and yes, all right, the Courtside theme tune is he dreams of Wimbledon. I think the boy dreams of Wimbledon more than we do. But actually, when you push that more, he talks about, I'd like to win this in tennis, but really I'd love to become a coach. Mm-hmm. And this is something that's merged over the past year. I don't know whether he's noticing it because it's being modelled to him by the coaches he has, and he thinks they're kind of cool, so hey, I'd like to be like them. But lots of conversations have within sport when your kid gets to a certain level, or like us, we've moved country so he can play sport. People say, well, do you think he'll make it? And I'd love to have a conversation with you about making it in the broader sense, in the sense of he'd love to be a coach. We've interviewed on Courtside physios, nutritionists. We've had all sorts of areas where the catalyst of them playing their sport has enabled other things to open up. There was an interesting quote about the midterms last year in the US, where all of the women who were elected to Congress, had all played at a significantly high level at the collegiate level.
Yeah.
And so that sporting dynamic had enabled X to happen. So they didn't become players, but the sport had been a catalyst. So what are the opportunities for young players in the sport that they love if going down the player route doesn't quite materialise, so that it's not just, well, I didn't make it as a player, so I'll become a physio? What really are the other options that are out there, and what's it like?
Well, gosh, if you go big, the options there's thousands of different things, because the tennis world is attached to everything, pretty much. You could, the problem, as you've said, is that quite often it's like, if I fail as a player, I'll become a coach.
Yeah.
And if I can't be a coach, if I'm not good enough to be even a coach, I'll be a referee or an umpire. You know what I mean? There's that hierarchy thing again. It's almost like the quarterback. If you go to an American high school football game, you will see there's the hierarchy of the quarterback down to whatever they are.
Yeah.
But you also have it in the parents. So the parents will be, I'm a quarterback's dad. I'm a cheerleader. It's true. The ones that I've been to, they're a cheerleader's dad, color guard dad, and then, but then there comes a point where they stop wearing them, and that's normally when you don't see someone with a "My kid sells the hot dogs" T-shirt on.
Yeah.
So let's park the hierarchy thing for a second. If you want to think of the industry of tennis, let's even take that the World Tour, the finals, WTA finals in Singapore. Having been involved in a little bit in that event the last 2 years, even that one event, the amount of different jobs that are attached to that event, from obviously you've got the sponsors, media, accounts, law, medical, journalism. You could go on and on all day about it. So in terms of, if you love tennis and you want to still have an involvement in tennis, you could almost choose almost any profession and attach it to tennis. The issue we have in, let's say, the career path of tennis is it normally stems from coaching. There's not actually, as far as I'm aware, a real clear formal path into employed status in tennis. If that makes any sense. So if, for example, normally it goes from generic to specific. So you might have someone that qualifies to be a physiotherapist and actually then goes, oh, job come up at the LTA, I'll maybe go and apply for that. That's kind of the way it goes. It's almost, as a side issue, one of my life goals is to create an awareness, first of all, of these opportunities, and then attach it to tennis players. So if you have a 14, 15-year-old, because still, unbelievably, the society deems it that between 16 and 18 is the ideal for age for a person to choose what they're going to do with the rest of their life. It's like absolute madness.
I'm 44 and still trying to work it out.
Exactly. But one thing I do think we know when we're around that age is what we love and what we enjoy.
Yeah.
And if you could wave a magic wand and help someone seek a career path or a potential employment in an area that they know they love, that would be utopian. And I think if you could click your fingers, the world would be an infinitely better place. If everyone worked in an environment where the thing that was surrounding the environment was something they loved. So in terms of coaching, you have a very cave person structure where you become maybe an assistant coach, then you become a coach, then you become a head coach, then you might become a director of a facility or program or whatever. I can't speak for other countries, but in the UK there are hardly any venues that offer that as a complete pathway.
Yeah.
So you would have to jump ship and so on. The employee situation, as I've mentioned, is kind of very much tiny number of positions in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
And certainly in coaching, so you could be maybe a regional coach, a national coach for the governing body. You might be a national age group captain that is responsible for overseeing the programs of your best players in the country and all that sort of stuff. But there's not really that many jobs as such. Now, that for me could be seen as a disadvantage. If you flip that on its head, the advantage is, therefore, there's a huge opportunity in tennis to forge your own path, to create your own way of doing things and actually blaze a trail. The only way I can see to do that is to become a specialist in something. So to maybe go through all of that pathway of assistant coach, head coach, etc., and get to an age and a stage in your career where you actually know what your skill set and your personality suits best, and then become a specialist in that area. Now, in terms of specialisms, if you chop up tennis, again, there's dozens, not hundreds. Even if you did the under 10 age group, you could chop that up into 20 different bits, you know. So I think in terms of pathway, the sad reality is there's not really one, not a concrete one. It's not like a different law of medicine or, you know, even like an apprenticeship in a trade. It's not like seen as being so black and white in terms of you're going to pick up a trade at 16, you're going to serve your apprenticeship, you're then going to become whatever, or a chef. You know what I mean? It's like all these different things. But I think the advantage is you can actually blaze your own trail. You could really go for it. One of the things that some people think this sounds weird when I say it, surprisingly enough. One of the disadvantages of tennis coaching, in my opinion, is you can earn a relatively good salary fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Or income. So you could be genuinely 18, 19 or 20 and be within 6 to 12 months earning maybe £40,000 a year.
Right.
If you find the right environment and you're willing to do what most coaches seem to do, which is work 10 hours a day, 7 days a week for a period of their life, then you can make quite good money straight away.
Yeah.
There's not many other jobs that I know where an 18-year-old could go into that and be earning even 25, 30 comfortably. Now, some people say, well, surely that's a great thing. But the problem is that relatively speaking, it doesn't go up.
Yeah.
So it could be that you're 40 years old, you're married with 2 kids, and you're still making the same money you were making when you were 18, 19, 20. And ironically, if you go into performance, you'll be earning less. You know, which is, my mates still think is crazy. It's like, when I did performance full time, they couldn't believe how little money I was making.
Yeah.
They're saying, in terms of where you are, you're at the sharp end of your career, and not career, but your trade.
Yep.
You're earning less than the club coach does running a big program. So it's a bit back to front. But the other reason I think it's bad or detrimental is that it does attract, I think, the wrong type of person
Yeah.
into the industry, because you get the kind of the young jock type mentality where it's like, if I go to a local club, the young assistant coach is driving a nicer car than I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're staying with their parents, but they're driving like an Audi TT or something. You know, so it attracts that kind of mentality, and what I think we should be trying to attract to our industry is people who are teachers, coaches, like carers, like they
Yep.
genuinely want to help the person in front of them rather than actually get 40 gigs in their
Yeah.
diary a week at 40 quid a week, an hour, and all of a sudden they're making 1,600 quid a week,
Yeah.
6 grand-ish a month, that kind of thing. Um, I think that's the detrimental thing. I was speaking to somebody last week about it, that I do genuinely think our industry would be better if there was a career path that came in that was very systematic and it took a long time to actually earn decent money, where you had to earn your stripes and you
Yeah.
also have to do everything that tennis has to offer. So the equivalent of a footballer cleaning boots.
Yep.
I don't know if that happens nowadays, but cleaning the locker room, emptying the bins, re-gripping rackets,
Yeah.
re-stringing rackets, making sure that the that the courts are swept, that all those kind of things actually show you what tennis involves in its entirety,
Agreed.
and then you appreciate when you get your little promotion or whatever it is, that you maybe don't have to do that, but you then also appreciate that the person coming in
Yeah.
younger than you does have to do it, and you know what they're going through, so you create empathy and so on. So I do think that if there was some way of creating a pathway that actually people had to really get their hands dirty, if you like,
Yep.
they have to really get stuck in and then earn their stripes and then create or understand what their
Yeah.
speciality
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very much it's a vocational thing. This is me coaching is an extension of who I am.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
teacher. I'm someone who wants to nurture.
Yeah.
When you talk about this, and I've heard you speak about this on other platforms and read some of your writings around it, my history is in youth work,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is exactly the same stuff. It's a vocational thing. It comes from within. It is an expression of who I am.
Yeah.
And some of the tension points we have within youth work is I get paid okay for a single guy. And then my community celebrates when I get married and things get a little bit tighter. And then when little sprogs arrive, you're like,
Yeah.
I can't stay in this vocation anymore and bring up a family.
Yeah.
And so there's that. When Elijah talks about, I'd love to go into coaching, I instantly flip into the youth work thing of, I don't want you to hit your 40s and go, I can't stay in this because I
Yeah.
can't financially sustain myself in
Yeah.
it. Is there anything in and around that you could appease maybe a nervous parent like me, if that's the line of travel for my boy? Because if that's the line of travel for him, and he does seem his personality, that would be a great expression of who he is. The last thing I want him to do is get trapped by what he loves because he then can't provide.
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me. It's 3 months I've had this.
3 months that cough, it's shocking.
I suppose the first thing I would say is that by the time he was in that situation,
Yeah.
I think it will have changed.
Yeah. Okay.
They reckon, I heard a statistic last year that they reckon about 70 to 80% of the jobs that our children
Yep.
will have don't even exist yet.
Yeah.
So the world is going to change a lot. I think that in a way it would be, well, take what I'm doing, for example. I'm trying to find different ways to create different income streams. So it could be through social media, it could be through YouTube, it could be through podcasts, it could be through speaking, it could be through online courses. So I think that going back to that whole thing of it forces you to think outside the box.
Yeah.
So it's forced me to think outside the box. I can't say I've found the solution yet, because as we said, or we spoke about off air, I'm away from home as much as I'm at home. So But for me, I'm still very much seeing that as everything I'm doing is sowing seeds for the future.
Yeah.
My paradigm changed like 100% when we had kids, because up to that point I was very career minded for myself.
Yeah.
Now I'm career minded for my family, which puts a completely different
It
spin on
does.
it from my point of view. And ironically, it's actually made me more ambitious because I was never ambitious in terms of finances. I was ambitious in terms of contribution back to the tennis
Mm.
world. Now I still have the value of contribution, but I'm also trying to create
Yeah.
a financial model that is going to offer security from my family, but also allow me to be around my family. There's no
Yeah.
point in making lots of money for my family if I'm not there with them, or create opportunities for my family that I can't take advantage of. So I think in terms of like Elijah or parents worried about the future, I think it will change.
Mm.
I think I do genuinely feel it in my waters that in the next 5 years there's going to be some big changes in terms of people realizing that we need to create a pathway,
Yeah.
that we need to think outside the box in terms of our industry is probably 99% self-employed people.
Yeah.
So that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So I think we need to look at different delivery models, employment models. We need to change the status or the kind of the perception of
Mm.
what the public thinks a tennis coach is. We definitely need to change the perception of what a committee at a tennis club thinks a coach
Yeah.
is, because at the moment they are hired help,
Yeah.
and there's all sorts of issues there, but that's maybe a different podcast. Um, but I do think we're reaching a tipping point where people that are in position of power or influence are actually going to realize, right, we need to make
Yeah.
a change now.
Yeah.
That it might take 10 years to really come to fruition, but I do feel it. I feel it
Yeah.
coming.
It's good.
Yeah.
Because it's for me, I'm looking at. We looked at it in the last podcast around kind of cheating and that. But there's character formation as you play the game. It's a person you become through how the game shapes you. But there's also this career line. If any of our kids go into coaching or any other line of work, you don't just always stay in that one role. That role then unearths different skills and competencies and gifts, and you don't know who you're hitting a ball over the net with next, and you have a conversation. And I think for us, sometimes as parents, we can be too concerned of you're a qualified coach. That's it. You're a coach till you're 70. That's it. No.
Yeah.
I'm here right now.
Yeah.
And as we said previously, life is a journey,
Yeah.
and we have to, in many respects, if we're trying to trust the process of playing the sport, let's also trust the process of what career paths could open up in the future. Because I think particularly for Kath and I, the more we see Elijah in his zone where he is alive, it's amazing how many doors open when you are alive in that literal sense. Not well, obviously,
Yeah.
but when when it's amazing that way. But when you're more on your game, you're positive. When you're more on your game, you see opportunities. When you're more on your game, you're more attractive for people to approach. There's those kind of things, and you're also in the flow of expressing who you are more easily.
Yeah.
Which then says, I could do that, I could do that,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think there's so many possibilities. So going back to January's episode,
Yeah.
which seems so long ago now. But going back to that whole thing of, it also comes back to who we're trying to genuinely attract into the world of coaching or the world of tennis. Because here's me sitting thinking about a salary of, say £40,000, and somebody's 40 and they're still earning £40,000. There's every chance somebody's listening to this going, £40,000.
Yeah.
I could work in my job for the rest of my life and I'll never make £40,000. But I know people in my family that don't earn half of that and go on a family holiday every year, that have a low mortgage, that have savings, that have a car. So I'm almost self-reflecting. That maybe we need to attract more people that £30,000 is like a huge salary, a huge income. And are doing it for the best reasons, have a huge work ethic and are driven. rather than actually people that are thinking, oh God, I'm only earning 40 grand, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway,
But
I
but there's
reflect.
sometimes with employment a trade-off. I might not earn as much doing this, but the
Yeah.
pleasure that I get in doing
Oh
it
God,
is the
yeah.
compensation for it,
Well, that was it. That
and it's
was
a
for me.
lifestyle it brings.
Yeah, but I was fortunate. I was in a position to travel so much with the job that I did,
Yeah,
and that I didn't really worry about the money. You know, when I think back to the amount of stuff I used to do for free or for very
yeah,
little, because I was just absolutely loving it and seeing it as an opportunity to grow, but also it's like a speculate to accumulate, isn't
yeah.
it? It's like if I put myself in that shop window, you never know.
No, exactly.
You know, I got into tutoring because I attended a workshop that I probably didn't really need to be at,
Yeah,
and the head of coach education bumped into me, asked me who I was, and asked me to pitch myself to him
yeah,
on what I could offer the tutor team, and
exactly.
it took 30 seconds, and then 10 years later, I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, so it's yeah, I think it will change, but lots of opportunity
There are.
to develop.
Uh,
That's for
and this good old sport, which is in the end just hitting a yellow fuzzy ball over a net, does
exactly.
now produce a great character
Yeah,
and opportunities.
yeah.
Chris, thank you so much for being with us over the past 3 months. Love the little mini podcasts, and we do hope that the cough gets better.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thanks again, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.